Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
Wherever you are in the world, I thank you so much for continuing to watch Conversations with Jennylyn. And as always, I try to bring you the best people that I feel can inspire you and hopefully help you in some way. Today, my guest is Steve Nobel. He lives in the UK and he is known for the soul matrix. And I cannot wait for him to share what that means with you and I. Steve, welcome to Conversations with Jennylyn.
Hi, Jennylyn. Thank you for inviting me.
I am thrilled that you could afford the time. I know you're super, super busy.
Oh, you were so enthusiastic. I thought I had to say yes.
Oh, great, 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 great. So, you know, Steve, the world, the planet is going through so many changes that I think, as I jokingly say, even Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles can see that something different is happening on the planet. And I know that this is your expertise. So I will let you start there, bearing in mind that there's so many people that are not spiritually awake.
Yeah. Well, the awakening on the planet started after World War II, really. There were starseeds being birthed onto the planet after World War II. Starseeds like Jimi Hendrix, David Bowie, John Lennon. And a lot of them were able to find expression in music because that was allowed. You know, you could be eccentric and sing about Starman in the sky and that was fine. Or John Lennon, imagine there's no religion. They were imagining something else. And this all led to the flower power movement in the 60s, which kind of was a wave and then it kind of broke because it didn't really have much structure to it. And then it created all these different threads of spirituality around in the 70s and 80s. And in the 90s, I found there was another revolution in consciousness, another awakening, more spiritual teachers coming online. This is when I started waking up in the 90s, early 90s, actually. And it was all lovely at that time. You know, you could go and have these magical retreats. And, you know, I started learning about we create our reality and there's synchronicity and flow and miracle consciousness. It was all made, and angels, it's all like magical. But what happened, I think, is around the millennium, the forces that controlled the planet, you can call Illuminati or Kabbalah, whatever you like to call them, became more aware of actually what was going on, I think. And they created various scenarios to block this ascension wave, this revolution in consciousness. And the first major one they did, which was a risk on their part because before then they were not really visible on the planet. It was only after the event of 9/11 that suddenly people looked at it and went, what's that? You know, the governments were spinning some stupid story. People, particularly starseeds, were looking at it going, that's not true. You know, I know, and it was so blatant. And I remember just before 9/11, feeling a huge shock in my body. I remember walking down the street thinking, what's going on? And I didn't know what was coming, but something was coming. And then when I saw it, I was in shock for weeks looking at it. And then there was an awareness in me, what they're saying is not true. I just don't believe this story. Something else has happened. And of course, lots of people since then have come out with all kinds of theories, and there's all kinds of holes in the official story. But basically, for me, 9/11 was the first attempt by the major forces of the planet to create a kind of an event which was meant to block and create war. You know, it did create war for America and Britain for many years. You know, and the Middle East was a war zone. And countries like Iraq was ravaged and so on. So that happened. And the timeline of the planet, the old timeline of the planet, was one of war and destruction. You know, all the prophecies speak about it, that they say that this world will end in a great war, you know, Armageddon, and there'll be a great darkness and a fight, and then the light will eventually come. All the prophecies talk about this stuff. But what happened was, with all the starseeds incarnating on the planet and the light increasing on the planet, the old timeline of destruction ended. It's not there anymore. And a new timeline came, which is towards a new Earth, which is like a on the other side of the darkness, on the other side of all this volatility, is a return to Eden, a 5D zone on the Earth. But this is still many decades away, because we're in this period of a fight between the lower forces, the 3D, lower astral and lower fear-based forces, separation consciousness forces, and the higher forces which are coming on the planet, starseeds with the higher consciousness. So there's a great volatility, and that volatility is in the world now, because it's a bit like two rivers joining, and one, the old river, it's used to having its way, and a new river comes, and suddenly there's a great volatility. And I remember when I was, I was raised in Christianity, and I remember reading something about Jesus the Christ saying, "I do not come to bring peace, I come to bring the sword." And I thought, what does that, why would he say such a thing? He's come here to bring peace. But he said, no, I've come to bring the sword, because he knew that what he was doing was bringing in a new energy, and that will create a huge volatility on the planet. And it did create war. His birth and his life created war. Religious wars, have been raging for, 2,000 years. So what we're seeing now is this volatility increasing now, the light and the light and the dark, and it's creating personally an internal battle for a lot of people between the ego and the higher self.
Mhm.
The higher self saying, come out, there's a new world possible for you. There's a new mindset, a new way of looking at the world, a new energy that you can kind of embrace, and a new direction in your life. And the ego goes, I'm scared, I'm not doing this, I don't know what you're talking about, leave me alone. That is what goes on in people. And when people hear the voice of the soul or the higher self speaking, they tend to initially go, oh no, am I going crazy? Is this real? I don't know about all this stuff. It's normal. When I started waking up, part of me was going, this is magical, but am I crazy? And I have this battle going for a long time.
Yeah,
And on the planet, it's the same thing. There's this light, and there's other forces going, like, for example, if you was to speak to a non-star seed, which the majority of the planet here are still non-star seeds, they would say, are you crazy? If you talk about ascension angels, if they listen to me, if your audience, anyone out there's non-star seed, they'll go, is this guy crazy? Because he's talking about ascension angels, star seeds, and doesn't he realize that rocks are hard and water's wet? What is he talking about? My mother and father, well, my father went before I started the journey properly, but my mother was like, what are you doing? My ex-wife, what are you doing? What cult are you joining now? My children, they still say to me, Dad, what are you up to? And I say to them, I'm up to no good. And they laugh, because they know I'm a bit weird in their view.
I know. And the sad thing about the world is when something doesn't resonate with them, they think you're cuckoo. Can you explain, because I have a really broad audience, and some of them are aware of what you're talking about, and some of them, this is brand new. Could you explain what a star seed is for people who are not yet awake?
Yeah, so I suppose the easiest way to talk about a starseed is what the kind of sign of a starseed is. That's probably the easiest thing. The core of being a starseed is in the reincarnational cycle of the soul. Some souls have been here a long time. They've been caught in this, over and over and over again. And they've seen empires come and go. They've seen slavery come and go. They've seen conquests and all of that. And to them, this is reality. Their reality is that conquest, slavery, fighting over resources. And starseeds they have lifetimes in other systems, other planetary systems, other dimensions, other star races. And they know that a different world's possible. So one of the things that they, like John Lennon said, I remember when John Lennon said this in an interview, he said, the world is run by insane people for insane purposes. And at the time I was quite young thinking, what is he talking about? Who is he talking about? Exactly. But now I totally get what he's talking about. Once you wake up, the world does seem to be run by insane people for insane purposes. So starseeds have a different view. When you're asleep, you come out of the birth canal and you're not always fully awakened. But generally starseeds have a feeling of a calling to alternative lifestyles, to spirituality. Starseeds are generally very sensitive, ultra sensitive. The highly sensitive person is mostly starseeds, if not all starseeds. That book by, I forget her name now, she wrote the book, The Highly Sensitive Person. Starseeds are super sensitive. They're sensitive to energy. They can be even very empathic, that they can even read energies, they can read thoughts. They can, you know, when they wake up, they can read energy fields. They can read anger in a room. They can read, she doesn't like me. I can feel it. And it's not just a projection on their own part or transference. They actually can feel that person. They can read it. They may have visions of the future. They may be drawn to sci-fi and scientifically advanced. Some people are drawn that way. Some starseeds are drawn into the crypto world, the crypto warrior world. A lot of these crypto warriors are starseeds. They want to bring down the old world because they think it's crazy. A lot of starseeds are the ones who are the eco warriors, chain themselves to trees, you know. And most people are looking at it and go, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You know. I remember I used to work in a bank. My first career was working in a bank in the City of London, an international bank. And I remember I was very interested in ecology. I was very interested in macrobiotics and yoga. And I remember talking about, what were we talking about one day? Pollution or something, you know, talking about pollution, plastics and stuff like that. And basically the answer that came back over and over again. And the other thing I said, why are we investing in all these projects, which are very dodgy, you know, third world. I remember one project, which was in Philippines, I think it was, investing millions into a nuclear power station on a fault line, earthquake fault line. And that was just, it's crazy, you know, the money the banks were flowing, getting countries into debt. And I used to question it. And all my colleagues were saying, basically they would say, you're going to get a bonus at the end of the year. Think about that. Why are you worrying about this? And they couldn't, I mean, almost universally, none of them would look at it. And I thought, am I a lone voice in the wilderness having any sorts of ethics about anything? And it was, all they thought about was shareholders. And I'm like, I don't care about the shareholders. I care about the planet. See, that's very typical for a starseed to care about the planet, whereas an earthseed will go, I care about the shareholders. I don't care about the shareholders. You know, why should I care about them?
Yes. And
anyone listening to your program will be a starseed because you're too crazy also like me. And
exactly.
So they would not be drawn to you.
But it's a lonely world because you know stuff. And when I first started to realize I was privy to information and experiences that most people had never heard of, it started from about 6 years old. I'd wake up, tell my mother stuff, and by the end of the day, it would have happened. And so they started calling me the weird child. And as I grew older, and as I became more curious about what is this thing I have, I found out that I have a gift that in my family didn't resonate with anyone else. So they just told me I was weird. And so now at my mature age, I am aware of things. And when I tell people close to me, they can't understand how I know this. And it sounds so out there that they think I'm crazy. And it's the most frustrating thing for me because I'm trying to help people close to me, giving them these messages I am getting, and I can see it and they can't see it. So they just think I'm a crazy person. And as I did my research, people like you showed up in my life.
Oh, great. Starseeds start waking up to their inner guidance system, their intuition, their gut system. I mean, Earthseeds also can have a gut awareness, you know, a gut feel, but starseeds have also their third eye starts opening. So it's not just a gut feeling, it's a gut feeling and a third eye thing. So you've got this inner compass that guides you that most people don't have. You know, I knew 4-5 years ago that I needed to get everything online. And so even for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been working, 3 years probably, I've been working exclusively online. And my old company, I used to be a director of a spiritual company, I told them, get online. And they said, no, because they did all live events. No, we're fine, everything's good. This virus hit, and then they were backpedaling super. They managed to do all right, actually, but in a really quick time. But I didn't know that was coming, but I knew I had to get everything online. So we just know things.
So as a starseed, what message do you want to leave for people who are not awake? What can you say to them to at least get them to open their minds to?
Well, starseeds,
that there's another parallel happening that they cannot see, but it is there.
Yeah, starseeds wake up through spiritual revelation, spiritual practice, soul calling. Earthseeds wake up a different way. They wake up through revelation of a different kind. They have to see that the world is not what they thought it was. They have to see, and also 9/11 and this COVID thing is waking them up, because a lot of them are demonstrating out on the streets going, it's all nonsense. And there's a lot of posting everywhere on social media going, we don't believe the governments anymore. So they are seeing through it. Things like starseeds like Julian Assange is opening up the earth seeds, because they're suddenly realizing, oh my God, are our governments lying to us? Are they spying on us? You know, the whole thing when Obama was in power and it came out that there was mass surveillance, and he kind of initially was like, no, it's kind of fine. And then it came out eventually, well, actually, yes, but don't worry about it, because we're not really checking on everyone. You know, it's all being stored in a big somewhere. And of course, they had to backpedal really fast because they were caught out, really. And people like Snowden, see, after 2012, a lot of starseeds came out as whistleblowers. Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning, there was Assange coming out. It's been a big explosion since 2012. Before that was very much less. But a lot of starseeds have a mission to bring down these corrupt structures. And when it's a bit like the Wizard of Oz, you know that Wizard of Oz film?
Yes.
When Toto pulls the curtain from the wizard,
Right.
and suddenly everyone sees the wizard pulling the handles, and he says, "Oh, ignore the person behind it." But you can't ignore, once you've seen the wizard there, you can't ignore what's going on. And a lot of people, I mean, I didn't even realize how controlled the media was in this country. I thought at least some things were a bit liberal. But as soon as this COVID thing hit, everywhere unanimously started pumping out the same fear messages. Exactly, you know, I had to turn it all off. I thought it's just it was propaganda. You know, you've got to have a jab, you've got to have a vaccine to be safe, and it's propaganda, which I've never seen to that level before. So they are taking a risk by doing this, because they're becoming more visible, so even to the ordinary people, you know.
So are you denying then that the COVID is killing the people, taking as many lives as we are being told?
Well, I think personally that COVID is, so the official story is someone ate a bad bat soup in China and suddenly the whole world went down. That's the official story, basically.
Right.
But, you know, people have been eating bat soup, I think, in China for a long time. To me, it looks like a black op operation that I'm not quite sure of all the details of it, but, you know, there's a lot of strange things about it. For example, if you look at it, and you won't find it anymore on YouTube, but when it first came out in China, people were collapsing in the street and being carried away on stretchers. They were just dropping down. And this was the first thing in China. Now, COVID is not doing that in the world. So whatever went on there is not exactly the same as what's going on around here. And I have heard some scientists, and I believe it's true, say that this virus is a laboratory altered natural virus that's been altered and speeded up in some way to do something. And to my mind, when I look at it, it looks like it's been released deliberately. And the end result is part of the vaccination program. They're pushing so strongly. You have to have this. You know, who cares about vitamin C, vitamin D, or zinc, or any of the other stuff? You know, they're pushing such a fear-based thing that without this, you're gonna, you know, die. And they don't even know that this vaccine will do anything other than stop you from getting really sick. They don't know if it's going to stop it being spread. They've got no idea, apparently. Anyway, I think this vaccine is part of an even bigger plan, and I don't trust it one bit, personally.
Okay.
I would never take it.
But
unless I'm being held down by the police, I will never take it. You know.
So the virus is real, but its origin is what's in question, because a lot of people are dying. And I've done a COVID series around the world. I've done over 80 segments around the world with doctors and different people in different countries. And this virus is real.
Yeah, it's real. There are a lot of people saying, no, it doesn't exist. I've got friends who say it doesn't exist, but it is real. But what I'd say to people listening is it's a 3D virus. And if you raise your energy and take simple precautions, I live by the sea, I go walking by the sea, I take vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, I take black seed oil, which is also useful. And I forget about, I have to remind myself, oh yeah, the world's in this crazy thing, you know, everyone has to have masks and say hello with their elbows. You know, I hug all my friends, I've got no worry, and they don't worry either. You know, even if we do have it, we'll neutralize it in our bodies. I don't have any fear about it.
Right.
You know, I've not been really sick for, you know, I hardly ever see a doctor. I can't remember in 20 or 30 years, you know, I'm really quite healthy. So I think every disease is a vibrational thing, and we have the power to neutralize these things. They do exist. Of course, there are viruses out there, and this one is real, I believe. But I wouldn't worry. Fear is the virus, because fear is an idea that's transmitted around the world, and fear lowers the immune system. And fear and ongoing anxiety and propaganda lowers the immune system. In England, we had the IRA bombing London for a while, and the message was keep calm and carry on, with bombs going off. But now with a virus, which has apparently got less than around 0.3% chance of killing you, the whole world has gone mental. It's so strange, so strange.
I know. I think it's because when you think about wars, they're fought between two countries most times, and a few times other countries get involved to help one or the other. But this thing is affecting every place in the world. And so I think this is what is probably different. But Steve, you are clearly an awakened individual, and you're privy to information and experiences and sureties or certainties that people who are not awakened are not aware of. And you were thrown into my life. I walk in the afternoons, and I always will go to YouTube. Let me see what I can watch today. And 3 consecutive days, your videos showed up. And the third day, I'm like, who the heck is this Steve? Clicked on it. And that changed my life, because I've been using your videos to help me relax, to help me calm. I mean, they're powerful. And so after watching enough, I'm like, this is someone I would like to interview. And I did my homework, found you, and we're doing this interview now. There's some things that fundamentally make no sense to someone if they stumble on your video. And what I'm doing is focusing this video from their perspective, hopefully, someone who's not awakened, who's unaware. So if I'm taking you all over the place, that's because I already get what you're doing, and I'm on the same page with you, not in terms of experience, but in understanding. So I'm gonna ask you questions for the person like I was when I first met you. Yeah. What is the difference with living in 3D? Explain the different dimensions of existence that we can choose to live in while we're on this planet now.
So the soul is multidimensional in nature, meaning this is one me is one possible part of something bigger. And this is not the only lifetime, and this is not the only dimension we can live in. But in this world, the world has been a 3D dimension for quite a while, and 3D is low vibration, dense. It's fear, a lot of fear and separation. And usually it's us again. If you read the newspapers in America or in England, it will be who's to blame, who's guilty, who should we dislike, who should we vote for, all these things. It's an us and them, is it racially or gender or economically, there's always someone to dislike or be against. Republican, Democrat, and all of that kind of stuff. Rocks are hard, water's wet in 3D. There's no manifestation possible. You can't manifest other than more suffering and struggle, because it's full of stories of, who has the power in your life? The government, your wife or partner, your boss, your family, depending on the culture. They have the power. You don't have power. You have to just do what you're told and get on with it. But when you start waking up, the shift is this concept, which is we create our reality individually and collectively. So when I first heard this, I was like, wow, what is that? And how does that possible that we create what do you mean we create our reality? And I remember having this healer telling me, try it out, and just visualize something and visualize car parking spaces. And I was like, oh, okay. And I tried it and it seemed to work. I'm like, wow. And there were angels interested in my car parking spaces, which blew my mind. Why would an angel be really interested in that? And I started doing other. Sorry?
I knew an angel.
Yeah, well, so I started experimenting for a number of years. I wanted to prove, is this real? Can I create my reality? And I tried it in all kinds of ways, and it started to work in all kinds of ways in my life, in my relationships, in work, in money, in what I wanted to achieve. It started to work. And so I thought, so this is 4D. 4D is a zone of the powers within us, not outside of us. And the world is a mirror for us. This is 4D. 4D is a training ground, essentially.
Okay.
And in 4D, there is light and dark. You can get attacked. And 5D is a stabilization at a higher level of light. In 5D, it's much harder to get attacked, especially if we stabilize in 5D, it's hard to get attacked or to be pulled into any dramas or anything. But the challenge is, and the training is to stay there, stay in a high vibrational state, because once we're pulled down, we're open to various things, you know. But in a high state, in 4D, to manifest, you do mantras, visualization boards, focusing your energy, you know, all of these things. Visualization, meditations. In 5D, you don't do any of that. You just focus your energy. You just think, what would I love to experience? And just open to it. And so I did years of vision boarding, years of magical rituals, chanting and all of that. And it works, but it's hard work. And so it's much easier doing it with just vibration. Raise your vibration to a high level of love or gratitude or joy or light, and stay there. I mean, that sounds easy, but it's challenging, because if once you're there, there are things that want to pull you back down, right?
While we're on this topic, you have a million, I feel like, meditation videos. Could you just mention one you have that people who want to do this can access, so that they can start trying it if they're interested?
Yeah, well, on my YouTube channel, which is Steve Nobel, there's a playlists. And basically on my playlist, if you click playlists, so you'll see there's super quick meditations. So if someone's new to it, you can try the super quick meditations, because that's quite quick. There's one which is a nice one to start, called the super quick morning meditation, which is around protecting your energy field. There's also one called super quick daily gratitude meditation, which raises your energy, which is a great one to do. There's also a super quick abundance meditation, which is really good to do for people, because money is such a control mechanism these days. There are longer meditations and longer transmissions, but I would start with the super quick ones. They're about 20 minutes or less, you know, roughly. And there are also affirmation tracks, which are short, and higher light decrease, which is short. So the shorter meditation is a good one to start. Morning meditation, gratitude meditation, abundance meditations. Those three are good. Nice places to start, you know, for most people. Most people need to raise their energy, shield their field, and look at abundance. Most people have abundance issues because money is so controlled in this reality, you know.
Well, while you're saying that, I want to state on this video that I know those work, because when I started doing your meditations, I started to see a huge change in my life. And this is why I pursued you like a hungry dog in this interview. So Stevie, I know that people close to me are seeing the change in me, and they're going, oh, what happened? And I try to explain this. It's such a unusual paradigm, because nobody out there except the few people like you are out there. That there are a lot of people like you, but in my world, there are a few of you that I follow. In fact, 2 of you are in the 3 of you are in Europe, and 1 person in the United States. But I credit the person I've become to what you're teaching, because what you're teaching is so very powerful. But like I said, it's going to require such a paradigm shift, because 3D is so much to control and drive fair, all the things you mentioned earlier. What is the best conversation to have with someone who's having difficulty understanding this? Because clearly I want to share it with everyone I love, because I want everyone to raise their vibration and have a good life. Yeah,
you have to use your intuition, because some people are going to be open and some people are going to not be interested. It's a bit, so you're looking for the star seeds out there. The star seeds, their energy will definitely be interested. They may be skeptical in the beginning, but you know they're interested. And there are others which are afraid of it, and they were like, whoa, I don't want to hear it. So, you know, I don't freak out my children. I definitely don't freak out my ex-wife. My grandchildren are little magical beings, and they are interested. You know, I teach them about talking to trees and fairies and crystals, and they're like, whoa, Rand, that's amazing. You know, so we have to be careful. We have to use our intuition. Who is open to it? And then give it to them and say, here you are. So I don't, you know, where I'm living, I don't tell anyone what I'm doing. But online, I'm just totally out there. And anybody who wants to find me will find me. So I allow people to find me. I don't go out. I don't really do public, well, even with COVID, I don't really do public talks. I just put stuff online, and people will share it and go, oh, this guy's interesting. Go and check him out. So I don't do any heavy marketing. You know, I certainly give most of my stuff away for free because I think what I'm here to do is to lift the starseeds who are going through this volatile period. I've been through the dark night of the soul. I'm out of it, so I can help others. When we look at the world, you know, they're looking at going, is it going to be all right? Is the world going to blow up? And I'm going, it's okay, come on. And the soul will call them. When they get that soul calling, they'll be interested. If they don't get it, they're not interested. So you'll know the ones who are like, they've got something will ignite in them. And people suddenly change their lives. They go from, you know, I've met people in the army who've had an awakening and are just changed into these spiritual beings, you know, amazingly, you know, from fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan to teaching Tai Chi and being completely different beings. So the soul will have its way, but we will resist the calling. That's even starseeds will resist waking up. We wake up, we want to go, but we're frightened. Accelerator pedal, brake pedal, accelerator, brake. How do I know it's real? Slow down, you know, all this stuff. So, you know, and some people do go very fast. There are some people, I interviewed someone the other day who's 28, and she woke up really strongly at the age of, you know, 16, 17. When I think I was awake as a teenager or waking up, but I went to sleep because it was just too scary. Nobody around me understood it, and I couldn't find any support. So I just tried to be normal, which is a very bad strategy. Don't try and be normal.
I did the same
Embrace
thing.
your weirdness, you know.
I know we're out of time, but I'm not ready to let you go. Real quickly before we wrap up, I know that you are busy, and I'm grateful that you afforded this time with me. But I really want to make an impact on the people like you and I who are starseeds, but they don't have any kind of resource. And we know that the planet is going through an alchemization process. I've been taking a lot of meditation classes with other teachers, so I'm aware of what is happening. What part can somebody watch in this show who doesn't believe play in the alchemization process, if any?
If they're not a starseed, they will be, they may be part of the awakening in terms of they may be demonstrating, doing political activism, standing up, saying this is not right. They'll do the regular 3D stuff. That's what they need to do. Okay. You know, but the starseeds, some will be called to activism, but starseeds have to be careful not to, because of the sensitivity, going out, demonstrating on the streets and getting into kind of conflict. Those kind of things can be difficult for starseeds because they don't like conflict too much. We don't want to be fighting with police or anything. And the role of starseeds is actually not to fight the dark. It's to help others to go beyond the dark. Because when we fight the dark, it gives them power. They like a good fight. But we go, you know what? That's why they didn't like flower power, because flower power was great, because it went, we ain't fighting with you, we're going to stick flowers in your guns. And they just didn't know what to do with that. So that is the kind of, we're not sticking flowers in people's guns anymore, but we're going beyond, you know, I think whatever happened, I didn't care who got in power in America, Trump or Biden, or even in Britain, it doesn't matter, because ultimately the light will have its way. And there's a lot of crumbling going on, a lot of dissolution going on, and they're just going to be watching over that. You know, and America, I think, is having a hard time, and may have a hard time for a little while yet, because America is a key country, and it's going through the light dark very intensely. I think light and dark is very strong there.
Yes.
There's a lot of spiritual teachers and a lot of very, very dense beings there as well. You know, we want to go
but
out.
I've noticed a lot of spiritual teachers picking sides. And to me, if you're a spiritual teacher, you should stay neutral, but maybe I'm wrong. What do I know?
Yeah, I think it was crazy. I had one or two conversations with teachers on Facebook, which I don't like doing, saying, you know, what you're doing, you're missing the point, which is the virus thing, the vaccination thing, and the agenda they're pushing. Stop arguing about all of this stuff. You know, if Biden gets in, fine, let him get in. If Trump gets in, let him get in. But it's the worst thing for starseeds is vaccination, mass vaccination. That is, and I think it's going to be stopped. But that was the biggest worry, because if that happened, I think starseeds could overcome it, but it will be a problem, because these new vaccines are not, they're RNA rewriting the code in your body. They're not like the old vaccines. So they're more risky, they're more problematic. And a lot of starseeds have had very strong reactions as children to vaccines. You know, a lot of these children have are starseeds. So we have to be careful about these vaccinations, I think.
And the last thing before I wrap up, what do you want to leave with my viewers that I've not asked you?
Okay. Well,
and lastly, how can they find you?
My website is thesoulmatrix.com, and I'm on YouTube as Steve Nobel, Nobel. The last thing I want to leave with people with is, even though the world may look a bit dark and volatile, don't worry. Turn within, find the light within. It's important for starseeds to find their own path, their own true direction, what they're here to do, because then you really can make an impact in the world. It's not about saving the world. We're not here to save the world. We're here to get on track. And as a mass group of beings together, we are uplifting the world.
Steve, I am so honored. And I thank you so, so much, because I struggle, because I know things that a lot of my friends don't know. And I don't know how to tell them what I know without being judged. And although I don't care about their judgments, I feel like if they hear it from another source who's experienced, they may start to open up their eyes, because I really want all of my friends to live in 5D and enjoy the best life.
Yeah, if they choose it. They have to choose it.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much. And I'm sure if you have the time to spare, I'd love to do another segment with you down the road.
That'll be great, Jennylyn.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And thank you so much for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired. And I am really hoping that Steve has somehow enlightened you and had an impact. And if you need to contact him, like he said, stevenobel.com.
Steve, well, it's The Soul Matrix, thesoulmatrix.com.
If you need to contact Steve, just go to thesoulmatrix.com.
Thesoulmatrix.com.
You can get in contact with him to learn more about his expertise and how you can change your life if you choose to. And I will see you next
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.